Hello, we're here from Miscast Gaming, and this is a Ninth Age battle report between the Infernal Dwarves and the Dread Elves. Shane versus Will. I am Shane.
And I'm Will.
And here we go.
We decided to play at the standard size, 4,500 points. We ended up playing on map pack number 1. We're doing some test games for the upcoming CTC event. Let's take a look at your first army list here, Shane.
So here I am. I am the Infernal Dwarf player. So for my army, I've got a Prophet as my general, who I've made into a Wizard Master of Alchemy. I feel it's a lore that gives me some ability to pick off some important ranged units, or some important units at range, and also buff my own forces. I've given him an Infernal Weapon and Shield, as well as a Death Cheater. So he's got a 1+ armor save, a 4+ regen, and then a 5+ special save against flaming attacks, and 2 strength 5 attacks himself. He's got a Mask of the Furnace, which will give him a Toxic Breath Weapon, which is a nice little trick to play on enemy characters, as well as an Obsidian Rock for magic resistance 2, and a Potion of Strength, a little one-use only item that's always worth trying out against enemy monsters. As well, I've got a Vizier, who's my battle standard bearer. He's also got the Infernal Weapon and Shield. He's carrying both a Flaming Standard and an Aether Icon. He has the Kadim Bindings, which means he'll have a 3+ armor save, a 5+ Aegis save, and a 2+ Aegis save against flaming attacks. It's a good character to pair with the general, so that if anyone would ignore his regen, I can challenge them out with that 2+, as well as a Dragon Staff to give my unit a second breath weapon. My core is 2 units of 10 Citadel Guard with flintlock rifles, shields, and musicians. They're just a good all-round unit, good resilience, good leadership, ability to damage things at range, and a march of 9 lets them capture objectives. 30 Hobgoblins, the Hobgoblin Sea Guard. They have the bows, spears, shield, and musicians. And I've got 2 units of 20 Slave Orcs for 115 points apiece. If they do anything worthwhile in a game, it was worth bringing them. For my special choice, I have 28 Immortals with Infernal Weapon and Shield, full command, and the Icon of the Inferno. Both of my characters will go in there, meaning that they'll also have a 3+ or a magic resistance of 3. For my Barrage, I have a Titan Mortar, and a Gunnery Team Flamethrower. And rounding that out, for my Bound and Binders, I've got a unit of 6 Kadim Incarnates. Their flaming attacks pair really well with Alchemy, and their flying movement lets them assist the Immortal block extremely well. Here's my lore of Alchemy. I took my hereditary spell, Haze of Magnesia, as well as Word of Iron, Molten Copper, and Silver Spike. Word of Iron is helpful on basically any of my units. Silver Spike is good for picking off enemy strong models like chariots and characters. Molten Copper I thought was going to be fairly effective this game, but did not turn out to be. And Haze of Magnesia is always worth bringing.
Taking a look at my list next, the Dread Elves. I decided to go with an Oracle as my general, Wizard Master of Divination. Took the Wandering Familiar and the Talisman of the Void. I went with a Battle Standard Bearer Captain on a Manticore. Gave him a Lance with Blessed Inscriptions, a Repeater Crossbow, the Basalt Infusion to get up to a 2+ armor save, and Cult of Nab. So he rerolls his hits and rerolls his wounds, so it's really effective single piece. My core choice is 2 units of 5 Dark Riders with Repeater Crossbows, 2 units of 10 Corsairs with paired weapons, handbows, and musician, and 17 Dread Legionnaires with spears and a musician. My whole core plan is to kind of be mobile, apply some shooting pressure, and hopefully score well. Special choices, I took 5 Dark Acolytes with a champion to round out my magic, 5 Harpies, Raptor Chariot, and 5 Knights with the Banner of Blood. I decided to try 2 units of 5 Ravencloaks. The Destroyers is 2 Dread Reapers along with a Hunting Chariot, and I round out the list with a Hydra. With Divination, I opted to go for my hereditary spell, Crippling Fatigue. I took both magic missiles with Fate's Judgment and Unerring Strike, planning to shoot at the Kadims, as they're kind of the most mobile threat of the board. The last spell I opted to go with was Stars Align. Since I couldn't pick the hereditary on my Acolytes, I was left with the 2 Cosmology spells, Altered Sight and Ice and Fire.
For our deployment, we played a Frontline Clash, and our objective was King of the Hill.
We got map pack number 1. Gave us the standard deployment Frontline Clash. We've got a hill there on the bottom left-hand side, an impassable terrain feature near the center with the immortals next to it. There's also that statue, is another impassable terrain piece. We've got water feature with the Hydra in it. And on the far left side, and at the top, is a field.
As well, the spearmen are deployed in a forest, I believe, and we have two fences. The middle fence is where I chose to put my objective, and the top left-hand side with the Corsairs is where Will chose to put his objective.
Yeah, for my deployment here, I was thinking about controlling the flanks with my faster elements, put my Dark Riders there, my Acolytes hiding behind the hill, keeping my BSB safe behind there as well. I wanted the Corsairs to act as supporting pieces that could score. I have a pretty good history of my Corsairs fighting those Citadel Guard. They kind of have a contest every match. Hopefully, I've got the better of it so far, but we'll see how this one goes.
For my deployment, I ended up with my Immortals fairly central and my Citadel Guard on the flanks, trying to hold Will's fast cavalry and such in place. I delayed deploying my Immortals for quite some time, trying to draw out as many drops from Will as I could. I assumed he was going to win the deployment, but I just wanted to get every ounce of advantage I could pull out of this mission.
It ended up paying off. Picking the fence feature in the center and putting the Immortals there, I was kind of able to predict that they were going to be there, but there was a chance they went on the far top right flank as well to threaten that field that I chose as my objective, in which case I would have had a hard time bringing my forces to bear on them. The way it ended up, both objectives were heavily contested. I decided to put my scouts on the far left flank. I wanted to try and pressure that side really quickly. Had a valuable Titan mortar there I wanted to take out, and with only the flamethrower team, the Citadel Guard, and the Hobgoblins protecting it, I thought it was a vulnerable area where I could take advantage of. Centrally, I put the majority of my forces. My Hydra and my Chariot are my two hard-hitting pieces. They have to control that center. I didn't really want to fight the Immortals. I couldn't bring enough power to bear on them, especially with their magic resistance. Just not likely to get a win. My Dread Knights were kind of hanging back. Didn't want to get involved too early. The Spearmen are just there as bodies to protect the Oracle, hopefully score in the late game. Hide the Acolytes behind the hill along with the BSB and the Hunting Chariot. Maybe get a shot off on the Kadims or go after the mortar on the other side.
For my deployment on the flank opposing the Oracle, I've got my Immortals fairly central. To their right, they have a piece of impassable terrain that does a very good job protecting them from the Repeater Bolt Thrower, who does have the ability to pull off a fair number of them a turn. The Kadims are right behind the fence. They're not going to have any difficulty moving into that fence on the first turn, which will also give them some protection from those Bolt Throwers. My Citadel Guard on the flank are just going to try and make sure they're in position so that the Dread Elf Fast Cavalry can't possibly get around me without me getting at least one turn to shoot them off. My Slave Orcs didn't have a real good position in this game. I wanted to make sure they weren't so far away from my general that they could panic off the board. They end up kind of being a reserve force. Maybe one of them will move over and defend the mortar. Maybe the other one will just kind of bottleneck behind my line so nothing gets behind me. And my Titan mortar there's got a pretty good line of sight down through the center of the board towards my objective, which I know Will has to move towards, so I thought I could just pound him from there. On my opposite side, I left enough room here that I could deploy my Immortals and then empty space on the flank. I didn't end up doing it, so on this side I've got those 30 Hobgoblin Bows, I've got those Citadel Guard, I've got the Flamethrower and the Titan Mortar. I thought maybe between the Flamethrower and the Citadel Guard I'd be able to bust up some of Will's fast elements over there and sacrifice the Hobgoblins and maybe march those Citadel Guard up near the end of the game to threaten his objective. The Trebuchet is a stand-in Titan Mortar for this game.
I dropped the rest of my forces when Shane had 2 pieces left, his characters and his Immortals. So I ended up getting a +2 bonus to go first, but lost the roll anyways, so Shane took the first turn.
And I absolutely will take it because I'm going to try everything I can to mortar him into Bolivia. So on first turn, I'm just moving my Citadel Guard sideways to move into that space behind the statue. I've well covered from Will's shooting right off the bat. He can't easily get anything behind me, and I've got my Flamethrower out there. The Flamethrower is pretty out in the open considering how many crossbows are going to be coming back at him, but he's got 4 wounds, he has a 4+ armor save, and he's got hard target built in naturally. I'm feeling confident he's going to survive at least a round of shooting, and with his always hitting on 2+ and his ability to just destroy light troops, I figure he'll more or less erase whatever unit I can get him into. On this side, my models just march forward up beside the impassable terrain feature. They're, I believe, fully blocked from one bolt thrower and get cover from another, but regardless, they're fairly well protected. My Kadeems move up. They're easily within range of my general here for next turn, just in case Will tries to frenzy bait them, and they're behind that fence. And my Citadel Guard are just going to stay in place and wait for Will to come to me.
Yeah, you did a good job claiming cover saves.
It's a it's surprising how easy the models that I use just seem to be pulled off the board. The Immortals seem just incredibly difficult to budge, but if an opponent just starts putting effort into it, they can pick handfuls of them off a turn. So here's the end of my deployment. Here's the end of my first movement phase. I've just slightly moved up, but I know that with a 9-inch march, I am 1 or 2 turns away maximum from being able to claim that center objective, so I've got lots of time. I don't need to push forward too quick. First magic phase, 5 and 9. I generally spend every Veil token I can into power dice. Only rarely do I save more than the minimum number each turn. So this time I'm going to start off with a Haze of Magnesia on these Dread Knights right away. I get a fairly low roll with a 5, but I believe Will lets it through.
Yeah, with Haze of Magnesia, he's going to make the Dread Knights flammable, and if he wants to shoot at them, I kind of felt like that was okay. I'll let them take some damage. There's not a whole lot they can really beat unless they can maybe get a clean charge off on the Kadeems. But with the positioning on the board, I didn't feel that was going to happen. So if I could get Shane to invest some time and resources into killing them, I was okay with that.
With the Icon of the Inferno, every time I get a successful spell off within range of the Immortal unit, I get a free blaze from the Pyromancy lore. This time I'm going to blaze into those Warlocks. I want to start dealing with them right away. My unit could just see them behind the hill, and it was enough to wipe out 2 of them, which was a pretty good roll on my side. I follow that up with a Silver Spike towards Will's Battle Standard Bearer.
The spell resolves, and I failed to dispel it. Luckily for me, he rolled the 2 to wound.
Yes, that was most disappointing. I was pretty psyched when it got off, but I've always got that for future turns. And that character has a great armor save against my shooting, and he's got that Basalt Infusion to protect him against my flaming attacks, which is why Silver Spike is still such a good spell in this lore. From that, the spell going off, I believe I take 1 more...
Dark Acolyte down, yeah. My ward saves, my Aegis saves there weren't doing too great, but hey, the Blaze does a lot of damage, just consistent picking away with Strength 4 shots. Triggered the Haze of Magnesia at the end of the turn by firing a Blaze at them as well. Lost 1 of the Knights.
Yeah, it's just worth a try. So,
here we're looking at the movement phase of Dread Elf turn 1.
Yeah, I apologize. Here we go.
I marched the Ravencloaks up in front of that flamethrower. Go back a slide? Yeah, I marched the Ravencloaks up, the Dark Riders. I figured everyone can get to short range and fire at this flamethrower team. It is tough, but with armor piercing, AP1 on the repeater crossbows, and a lot of shots, and these are my accurate troops in short range. With their cult, they get +1 to hit, so maybe it'll counter up that hard target a little bit. I'm hoping to take down that gunnery team and maybe cause a panic check. I decided it was time to get my acolytes out of the way of those blazes, so I moved them around. I got the Corsairs up as far as they could go and moved the Dark Riders on the left flank up into short range of the Citadel Guard. Wanted to take some shots at them, maybe put a wound or 2. Anything I can do to reduce the incoming firepower I'm going to take next turn. The Hydra and the Chariot just move up through the water feature. Luckily only infantry have to take dangerous terrain in there, so I got the Hydra right up in range to declare a charge on those hobgoblins. It's a long charge, but they're going to have to take a terror test, and with the general being out of range, hopefully I can spook them off the board. In the magic phase, I got card number 7, 6 magic dice, 7 veil tokens, along with my 3 that I generate, so I had a pretty powerful first turn phase. The first spell I decided to go for is Crippling Fatigue on the Kadeems. I decided to see if I can get a high roll. I throw 4 dice at it. I do get a pretty high roll. Um, I think you let this one resolve.
I did let this one resolve. I thought this was a very high roll. I could throw everything at stopping this, or I could let this high roll through and try and use my dice to stop the damage that comes after.
I think you made the right choice. The rest of my spells didn't really do any damage. I think I failed to cast Unerring Strike. All in all, the magic phase wasn't that effective for me. My Fire and Ice from the Acolytes, I think got dispelled.
Yeah, it was a risky call to let a reroll through, but it worked out for me because Will just rolled badly.
Hopefully the shooting can pick it up. So on the left flank, I fire everyone at short range into this flamethrower team, and I get it on 3 wounds. Not quite enough.
I was pretty psyched that he was going to live a turn so I could fire back.
Well, the one bolt thrower that can draw a line of sight to the Immortals fires away and gets 2 kills, so I can't complain about that.
Oh, it's a third of the way to working its points back already. So here's my turn 2. So on this side of the board, my flamethrower team moves back a little bit, so if Will wants to get to short range, he has to at least walk to me. I also make sure to open up the space for my Citadel Guards, so they have a free line of shooting. On this side, my Citadel Guard turn towards his fast cavalry. My back unit of slave orcs turn as well. They're in a position where they can start moving up to support. My Immortals maybe even inched back a little bit after taking that damage, I think.
Yeah, they did. They noticed they could claim a better hard cover if they backed up a little bit more. The second bolt thrower wouldn't have such a clean shot.
Yeah, I don't need to stand there and just lose models all game. Will win that if I let that happen. So for my magic phase, I got card number 2. 5 magic dice and 2 veil. I only generate 1 veil a turn, so that just gave me 6 dice to 5. So first away, I cast Quicksilver Lash on these Dread Knights and get 2 of them right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard spell to want to stop. Normally it's going to destroy my Dread Knights, which I'd be pretty upset about. But in this game, I didn't really feel that they could accomplish a whole lot with their positioning. They're not going to move out in front of the Immortals. They're not going to get a clean charge into the Kadims. Again, I'm hoping Shane does commit more power dice to try and kill them off, so I let this one go.
For my Blaze, I just wipe out a few of these Harpies, just start getting rid of some of these chaff elements that are going to be in my way later on.
Luckily, I don't panic.
And the Haze of Magnesia resolves on these and kills the last one, or kills the second last one.
That's right, the Standard Bearer survives. He's got the all-important Banner of Blood.
Here, in my shooting phase, you can barely see those Citadel Guard that just turned to face these horses. I believe I'm firing 10 shots, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. And I take no guff and just remove this entire unit with the pull of a trigger.
That's right.
It was an excellent showing.
Yeah, they all go down. It's unfortunate. I was hoping to take a charge on the Titan Mortar on the next turn, but even 2 or 3 survivors would have locked it up and saved me a lot of pain from those mortar shots. They all went down.
Over here, my flamethrower, I believe, fires and wipes out 4 of the 5.
Yep.
1 more would have been excellent because it would have caused panic checks for destroyed unit, but it's better than nothing.
My panic checks were pretty good this game. I don't think I actually ended up failing a panic check.
I don't think so either. Here we've got my Citadel Guard on the opposing side. They're firing at long range, so they only managed to snipe 2 off, which is pretty reasonable rolls for them. Good damage, good start.
Yeah, we'll jump over to my turn 2. I decided to declare charge with that Hydra into those Hobgoblins. He pretty much eats them every single time that we play, so why would this be any different? I declare my charge, he takes his terror test, and fails.
I do indeed. They just would not stand and die for me. I can't blame them. I fired them into the fast cavalry, or maybe it was the Corsairs trying to do some damage before they get eaten by the Hydra, but in the end, just like always, the Hobgoblins go home useless.
Yeah, a high flee roll runs them right off the board. So there's the scattered remnants. I redirect the Hydra into the Citadel Guard there. It's a long charge, but if I can get them in the rear, it's going to be worth it. So I decided to redirect as well. We have another terror test.
And they just fail it. They just decide that they've seen the Hobgoblins not want to take it, so they go too. They run right through the flamethrower, but thankfully I think at least the flamethrower stands there and dies like a man.
That he does. So that was pretty fortunate for me. Because the Hydra was the first thing to declare the charges, my Dark Riders over here are now able to declare a charge on the fleeing Citadel Guard. So just push them right off the board. I'm redirect into the gunnery team. Hopefully try to finish him off in close combat. I don't want to take another flamethrower hit. So in the movement phase, I move my acolytes up to the spot where all the Dark Riders died. Maybe these guys can pick up their slack and go after that Titan Mortar on the next turn. I decide to bring my BSB over so that I can threaten those Kadim Incarnates. With Divine Attacks, ignoring your armor save, hitting on 2+, wounding on 2+, with re-rolls, I figure there's a good chance I can really hurt that unit in a single go. Maybe even kill it. Hopefully I can weaken them a bit beforehand. I jump the Harpies up to act as a sort of chaff. I know the Kadims, if they want, they can fly over top, but I'm kind of hoping that he takes the bait and charges the Harpies. There's a chance he goes for the hunting chariot, but that's a risk I'm willing to take, because I want to get the shot off with this thing. It normally fires once or twice in a game, ends up fleeing, and then it's done. So I need to get its work in now. The lone survivor from the Dread Knight Massacre, he makes a march over into the water. He's just hoping to get out of the line of sight of any of those units with guns over there, and he'll probably end up marching into that field to score for me. March my my scouts, Ravencloaks here, up the left flank. Gonna fire some shots into that Titan Mortar and then declare a charge on it next turn, hopefully finish it off. It was fortunate that that left flank kind of crumbled from terror. I was able to redirect a lot of my forces, and now I don't have to commit anything over there. So for Magic Phase, I get card number 1. It's not going to be a great phase, but I think I have some stored Veil tokens, and there's a chance I can push through a spell with a single high roll. So I go for Unerring Strike, and I do get a high roll.
Quite a roll.
I think this was my rolls to wound, or was this my casting value?
Oh, I'm not even sure. It was all frightening at this point.
I got the spell off. I don't think it was a miscast. And I killed one whole incarnate along with a wound or two on another one. In the shooting phase, I fire into the Citadel Guard here with my Corsairs, and I actually kill 2 of them. Those handbows.
My Titan Mortar's up there with a wound on it. I think it misfired and put a wound on itself at this point. So far in the game, they haven't really done much, but they're threatening, so...
Yeah, I kind of have a small window here where I've exposed myself. I need to deal with them, or else I risk taking a lot of return fire. So on the left flank, my scouts fire into that Titan Mortar and cause 2 wounds. Not too bad. And in combat, I finish off that gunnery team and do a post-combat pivot to face that Titan Mortar. Here we're looking at the top of your turn 3.
Yes, I believe so. So my Citadel Guard are going to declare a charge against the Warlocks?
Yeah, the Dark Acolytes here. Right. I gotta say, I didn't anticipate you declaring a charge. My positioning was pretty poor for that. So I had to hold, because a flea would run me right off the board.
And if I succeed at this, they'll safely get out of the line of sight of the Battle Standard Bearer. And I think just by pure bodies, I've got the guys to win this fight against 2 mediocre combatant light cavalry.
Yeah, 2 versus 8, and it's not looking good for me. My guys don't have armor.
So, here we go again. There's the charge on that side. And since they're going to be moving out of the way, I declare a conditional charge with that Slave Orc unit on the bottom right. It's going to try and, I believe, charge the Battle Standard Bearer.
Yeah. I mean, there's a good chance you can tie him up forever. Either that or even break him. It looks like you've taken a casualty somewhere.
One of them might just have dropped dead of fright of the idea of having to fight this Battle Standard Bearer all on their own.
Maybe.
But yeah, if they can do anything, if they can hold him up for a turn, if they can do a single wound, anything like that will easily be worth their points and their investment. They don't cause panic. I don't care. They're not going to do anything else unless I get them out there.
And once again, I'm too close to the board edge to declare a flee. So I have to hold and hope he doesn't make it.
So, once again, here's the charges. As well, the Kadim are going to be charging over the fence at the hunting chariot.
Yeah, charging at the hunting chariot, I chose to flee. I fired my one shot off. I think I put a wound on a Kadim or something, and now it's time to flee. So it looks like you didn't choose to redirect them.
I did not. My thought here was that if I failed the charge, then my wheel and movement towards the hunting chariot will put your battle standard bearer into the front of my Kadim unit instead of the flank, and me being able to take you to the front with my leadership for my general, my BSB beside me will be enough. That way, in case the slave orcs fail their extremely long distance charge, I'm still positioned next turn to not be in a bad spot.
Yeah, I think that was the right choice because had you charged redirected into the harpies and blown them out, even an overrun's still going to leave you vulnerable to a flank charge from that battle standard bearer. So I think you made the right choice here.
So here we go. The Citadel Guard make it in. The slave orcs, I believe, do not.
Nope, they fall a little short.
All right, and here we go. So there's my Kadims who have moved forward to get him into the front by failing their charge, and here's my Immortals who have turned over. This way, if Will charges his Battle Stand Bearer into my Kadims, he'll be in position for me to charge him on the flank, and even with no wounds, that's enough static combat res that I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to win this one.
Yeah, and this gives your wizard a good line of sight onto my Battle Standard Bearer as well.
And when I get any spells off this turn, my thought is that I'll just be able to blaze the remaining Harpies off, so he won't be able to chaff me. So here's the battle line completely after movement. You can see I'm turning fairly strongly in that direction. My opposite flank is dead. It's all dead. It's just the Titan mortar there, so I'm just going to keep ineffectually firing it at who knows what, and just let it die in disgrace. For my magic phase, it's 5 and 7. I'm once again going to turn all my Veil tokens I can into dice. And I'm going to throw my first spell up, which I believe is a Haze of Magnesia.
Yeah, and again, this one resolves. And the blaze fires down 2 harpies.
So I've got that 1 harpy left. It's of course not going to fail its panic check, so I've got to absolutely make sure I get rid of that one last model so it doesn't hold up that 2,000 points of Immortals. Here's my Haze of Magnesia, resolving against the Battle Standard Bearer. He's got that great ward save against flaming attacks, but if I get to reroll my wounds against him with my Kadim, I've got 3 attacks a model, I've got battle focus, I'll wound him on 4s and reroll. It's not unreasonable to slip 1 or 2 wounds through on a 2+ save model.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with my 3+ Aegis from the Basalt Infusion, I felt confident letting this one resolve. Hope that the Harpies survived and I could buy a turn by chaffing those Immortals. I'll try and stop the rest of your spells. Looks like it didn't work out for me, though.
So over here, I think this might have been the Titan mortar firing away.
This definitely looks like the Titan mortar. I think you fired the silver spike at my BSB, which gave you that last blaze.
Right. I still don't think I did any wounds with it, though.
No.
It's a great spell to cast at him, but it just isn't pulling through for me yet. Anyways, being able to get this shot off on these guys is always helpful, just in case he decides he wants to try and do something insane like charge me, having to take the DTs coming in, even on his character, having to reroll 6s. It's always just good to debuff units on your flanks.
Here the Titan mortar took a shot and it hit me. Rolled the wound and I've got 2 wounds on me now.
With only the 2+ armor save and no ward save against non-flaming attacks, the character's actually very vulnerable to war machines, and I've got him, and it's finally starting to pull through for me. So now, after the Haze of Magnesia is resolved on this guy, he still has Alchemical Fire from my attribute. I still get to re-roll on him, and he's got only 2 wounds. Putting him into those Kadims suddenly became a lot more risky.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking twice about whether or not I should still take this charge. Now that it's on the front, now that I'm wounded, got a lot to think about.
So over here, I lose one of my Citadel Guard to those high initiative elves, but then I chop the last 2 into meat.
Yep, down they go.
I was once again hoping this might be a panic check, but it's highly unlikely on elf leadership that's also carrying a Battle Standard Bearer flag, but it's just always worth trying.
Jumping over to my 3rd turn here. I decide to charge my fast cav into this Titan mortar. It's time to get rid of this shooting. The chariot here, my thoughts, I know my impact hits aren't going to do much, and I don't even know if I'm going to win combat, but if I can hold the Immortals in combat on Shane's turn, this means that he's not going to be able to assist charge with them into my Battle Standard Bearer, and he's going to lose access to his magic missiles. So I figure, I can sacrifice my chariot, buy myself a turn, and take less damage on my Battle Standard Bearer, maybe get through those Kadims.
Now I knew I was opening my flank up to this chariot, so you can see my battle standard bearer is on the top right hand side of my unit. So when the chariot charges in, I've got my most effective single combat model there just to try and win that combat and push him out. I don't know if it's enough, but you got to do everything you can.
The battle standard bearer declares a charge on the Kadims. I decide that I need to go for it. The thoughts here being that if I sit out in the open, I can't deal with that Titan mortar this turn, and if it fires at me, the Citadel Guard fire at me, and the Immortals don't get engaged, and they're able to, his wizard's able to fire his spells at me too, I'm more likely to die outside of combat than I am with my strong save against those Kadims. So I decided to go for it. It also opens up a conditional charge for me to get my Corsairs into those Citadel Guard, because I can just see them past the front of the Battle Standard Bearer.
Yeah, it's most unfortunate because since the Citadel Guard are entirely blocked, I'm going to get one model shooting off that's not going to do anything to those Corsairs. My Citadel Guard don't stack up very well to those Corsairs in combat at full strength. I'm depleted and I don't get my stand and shoot. This means Will's basically gotten the points for that unit.
So my Dark Riders make the charge. The Chariot does not, which kind of worries me a little bit because I've already committed my BSB on that flank. He makes his charge in, and the Corsairs do as well. So, we'll see how these combats turn out for me. Maybe I can get some magic buffs up. I've got the Wandering Familiar, so I increase my divination range. I just got to be careful with how close I bring my Oracle to those Immortals. Really don't want to get in harm's way. The rest of the movement, I get the Corsairs over here. They need to start getting involved now that the Lone Dread Knight can claim the objective. March the Hydra as far as he can go. He's got two plans here. Either get into the Immortals to tie them up. It's not going to last for long because of his Flaming Banner. Or maybe get around back and eat some Slave Orcs. The Scouts are just moving forward. I've got to get into range to shoot at something. With this big line of sight blocking terrain in the way, they're going to be out of the game for another turn or so. Here's a whole shot of the board. The Hunting Chariot rallies, which is good news. In the Magic phase, I get Crippling Fatigue off. It's not going to help a whole lot because my character already rerolls his wounds, but it's going to let his Manticore reroll his wounds. And with 4 attacks that are wounded on 2s, every little bit counts. If I can do any extra damage to these Kadims, it's going to be worth it. In the shooting phase, it looks like the angle he put himself on exposed him to the bolt throwers again. I got another 3.
Oh, I think Bolter has paid for himself already. These Immortals are made of solid gold.
In combat, the Corsairs kill 2 Citadel Guard. I think you kill a couple on the swing back.
It looks like at least one. A valiant effort.
With the Crippling Fatigue off, I managed to kill 1 Kadim and
put a wound or 2 on the other, I believe.
Yeah, not too bad. I only have 7 attacks, and I think I converted 4 or 5 wounds. Mm-hmm. Can't complain about that. I didn't take any damage back.
That's true. I was hoping to sneak 1 or 2 through, but it did not work out. Now here it's worth noting, we did make a mistake. We forgot the Kadims were light troops, so for this break roll, I was using my general on BSB to make a steadfast check, which should not have happened. I should have been negative. I should have been leadership 5 or some such. My initial thought was that there'd be enough Kadims left at the end of this fight to hold Will in place. Because at the time we thought it was steadfast, it turns out there's a lot more Kadims here than should be.
Yeah, maybe 1.5 more models should be missing. All in all, it doesn't make a huge difference, but it's something to keep in mind.
Over here, the Titan Mortar, I believe, takes 2 or 3 wounds.
I think I only got 1 in the combat because I had 2 on him from shooting. The ogre there kills the Dark Rider too. So I win combat by 1, but you hold.
Excellent, excellent. The invisible slave ogre pulls his weight. Here is my turn 4. So we're a little more than halfway through the game right now. It's time to try and crush things and move towards objectives. So here's a good shot of the overall board. My Mortals are becoming encircled, but I've got a good line of sight to just charge right through and try and break that BSB. So, there's my charge. I don't think I can possibly fail this corner to corner.
No, it's close enough. I'm definitely in trouble now.
So, my slave orcs as well, seeing the flank of these guys, they didn't expect my Citadel Guard to hold that combat. Now they've exposed themselves to a charge by a 19-man unit. Anytime you can charge 19 Strength 4, Toughness 4 bodies into the flank, it is worth taking that shot.
Yeah, I was hoping that they wouldn't make it, but they did, so my Corsairs are in a little bit of trouble. They normally excel at killing slave orcs and Citadel Guard, but things are looking grim.
It's harder when it's both at the same time. So here's my Immortals in, of course, and there's my Slave Orcs in. Now with my Immortals in combat, I can't take advantage of my magic missiles, but it's worth it to get rid of that BSB. So, here's a shot of the board again. You can see where I'm in combat, and you can see the other unit of Slave Orcs has started to move forward. They are in the middle of that fence, which is why it's laying on them. Their plan is to move forward and get in the way of that Hydra. They are just going to stand and die, and hopefully they can have maybe one turn of that. So if my magic phase, I get 7 and 7. I'm just going to convert everything. I think I've got some extra tokens left over. I have like 10 dice. This is a great time to have a pile of dice and no missile spells I can cast it on.
Yeah, just the combat buffs here. Now, with Haze of Magnesia, again, I can't really stop this one. I kind of want you to not get the armor save, so I let the Haze of Magnesia resolve once again. There's no blazes, at least, because you're in combat, so...
There are no blazes. I'm just hoping here, I've got the armor save buff to cast on my Immortals, and I've got Haze. The armor save buff will give you alchemical fire. The Haze will make you flammable. Both things just make you flammable. That's just an extra little bit to try and get the Kadims through to do the damage. I don't need to activate the flaming banner on my Immortals, so I'm not going to, because there's no reason to give him that Aegis save. My Strength 5 AP2 is enough to just put wounds through. Over here, it looks like my mortar maybe misfires and takes a wound.
That he does.
I'm so happy I include 2 of these in every list. On the other hand, I lose another Kadim, I think, and maybe a wound on an additional one, but the Immortals just easily put the last 2 wounds on that poor guy.
Yeah, I think this was your toxic breath weapon that finished me off.
May as well burn it.
I considered declaring a challenge, but I didn't think it was going to pay off in the end. I was still going to lose combat and maybe break, maybe just get killed by the breath weapon anyways. I thought if I can do more damage to these Kadims and leave them as a less useful piece for the next few turns, I don't think I'm going to get points from the Immortals, and I certainly wasn't going to kill a character. So I decided to throw my attacks at the Kadims and hope for the best. They still have crippling fatigue on them.
So over here, here's my post-combat pivots and reforms. My Immortals are going to turn around and face back towards the center of the board where the Chariot, the Hydra, and the Spearmen are. And my Kadims are going to shuffle around somewhat. Oh yes, there they are. Facing the same direction to come in for backup. Over here, the massacre continues. My Slave Orcs, driven by that one very upset dwarf, rush in and manage to take out between them and the Citadel Guard four Dread Elves. But of course, before that happens, the Dread Elves get to massacre as many dwarves and orcs as they can get their hands on.
Yeah, the 2 Corsairs on the flank killed 3 Slave Orcs.
The remaining 4 kill 3 dwarves.
Yeah, not too bad. I actually win this combat.
Oh, it's brutal.
So I choose to reform to get more models in contact with the Slave Orcs. I don't know. I was thinking that I could throw some more attacks against them. I'm not going to claim a rank bonus, and I can't change my facing because I'm engaged on 2 sides. So I just tried to get as many models attacking the Slave Orcs as I can here.
Oh, this was a gambit well worth trying, but she's not going to work out for those poor Slave Orcs.
Those Corsairs are tough on their own. They don't need no help.
Here we've got Dread Elves turn 4.
So, taking a look at the board here, I'm going to declare some charges. My Hunting Chariot, so now that he's rallied, he's going to go into those Slave Orcs and maybe free those Corsairs up. I've got to get rid of some of those bodies so he's not steadfast and he'll lose his Strength 4 from the Born to Fight. So I decided to throw him in. The Hydra can draw line of sight to those Slave Orcs, and I'm certainly not going to charge the Immortals, and I'm safer in combat than I am standing outside, so I decided to go and eat these Orcs. After the pitiful showing from the Dark Riders on their charge against that Ogre on the Titan Mortar, I decided to send the Ravencloaks in too. Apparently they need backup. So the Hydra makes his charge, the Slave Orcs don't fail terror. That's something new.
Oh, with the jump on the BSB right there. Well, I don't know. I'd say I'd kill them when I got home, but they're not going to make it out of this anyways.
No. The Hunting Chariot makes his charge as well. And the Ravencloaks can't fail. I can't get a whole lot of models in contact, though. So for the rest of my movement phase, I decide it's time to get the Spearmen out of there. They move behind the hill, and this doesn't concern me too much because I've got the Wandering Familiar. I can place it up on top of the hill. You can see it's the little raven there. It's going to be my line of sight, so I don't need to worry about hiding the Oracle back here.
That Wandering Familiar was extremely useful with this unit, being able to stay out of line of sight of the mortars and still get line of sight on the Immortals.
In the Magic phase, I got number 5. This is one of the stronger phases with 9 Veil tokens. I lost my Acolyte, so I don't have the full 3 channel anymore, but I still have a powerful phase coming up. Looks like I fired Fate's Judgment off and got a wound on one of the Kadeems. Crippling Fatigue resolves on these Slave Orcs as well, so I'm hoping to blow through them in one turn. I've got my Breath Weapon, I've got my Stomp, and I'm hitting them on 3s and wounding them on 3s, so it should be a lot of damage. Shooting doesn't amount to a whole lot. I think I fire at these Immortals, but I don't kill anything. Not this turn.
Not this turn.
In combat, I finish off that Titan Mortar, so my scouts are free to get moving again. And against the Slave Orcs here, I kill 10. Not quite the 11 I needed.
So that gives me just enough to have Steadfast.
And because he's Steadfast, he's going to hold, and that means those Kadeems are threatening my flank now. Unfortunate. I thought that with Crippling Fatigue, I might be able to break through in one turn. I should have softened them up. One more model would have made a difference. But it never feels good firing a bolt thrower into Slave Orcs.
It always feels good making your opponent fire war machines into Slave Orcs.
So in combat over here, my impact hits do some damage, and the Corsairs finish off the last remaining Citadel Guard. The Slave Orcs are still Steadfast, though.
They've got that 1 rank, and I believe I'm in range of my general in BSB.
That you are.
So they're just going to stand and die bravely for the motherland.
So I get all 4 Corsairs here fighting the Slave Orcs. They'll clean them up soon. There's the board at the end of turn 4. And here we're at the beginning of your turn 5, Shane.
I believe so. So here are my Immortals. Boom. Here are my Immortals moving forward. They're going to move forward towards this fence. This way they're easily within range to claim the fence. At this point, the concerns about the fence are this unit of Corsairs that are directly in front of it that are scoring, and also the Spearmen. I've got 1 scoring unit here. I've got to figure out a way to deal with 2.
Yeah, and the Kadeems made their charge into the flank of the Hydra as well.
They did, and here's the last 2 Citadel Guard who had broke from combat the previous turn. They weren't Steadfast, of course, and they are not going to stay. They're just going to keep on trucking.
That's right. They just ran off the board. I thought I killed them, but they decided to make their getaway.
It is broke. Alright, so here's the Kadeems making into the side of that Hydra. I thought this was a good matchup for me. I've got 9 attacks. I go first. I've got Battle Focus, and I've got that AP2 and for the 4+ armor and the flaming attacks for the regen. For my magic phase, I'm going to get 6 and 7. And I'm going to throw a Haze of Magnesia off on these Corsairs, which is going to activate the Blaze from the Icon of the Inferno. Between the D3 and the rerolls, I'm going to get 2 of them off right now. I'm just going to try and do a panic check on these guys. That's the first thing I want to do with the least amount of damage I can put into them. So the maybe this is the Haze resolving or another spell?
I think this is the Haze resolving. They're normally pretty resilient to this with the 4+ armor save, but these guys definitely had to take their panic check. I'm pretty sure they passed, though. They're in range of the general.
They did indeed.
Some more fire going in here.
And it's just everything I can pour into this unit. Now they're not going to panic. I know I've just got to fully invest on getting rid of them. Over here, I've got Alchemical Fire up on the Hydra from the spells I got off, so I'm going to be wounding it on 4s of my Kadeems and re-rolling my wounds, and then giving him only a 6+ armor. So I'm pretty confident right now this is about to go well.
Unfortunately,
and it does not.
The Kadeems come in and Tornado of Anger. They don't really hit anything, though.
I think I do 0 wounds to you.
One.
Did I get that 1 through? Oh, that feels good.
And the Slave Orcs are still crippling fatigued. So I throw all my attacks on them, stomp them, and I end up winning combat here by, I think, 6.
It's enough that the supernal Kadeems just crumble.
Yeah, down to one guy, and the slave orcs aren't steadfast, so I don't think they stick around.
No, and this isn't going to look better next turn. Even with me still re-rolling my wounds against that Hydra with one model left, I'm not going to win it.
So in combat over here, the hunting chariot takes a wound, and I lose 2 corsairs, but I don't kill any slave orcs.
Even with a guiding light spell up, I believe, on the hunting chariot.
That was because I had a feeling I was going to lose this and gave him a rerollable leadership.
You can tell that the slaves had that look in their eye. All right, so over here, I think we're just showing
the end of combat.
Yeah.
Going into bottom of turn 5. So at this point, my whole goal is to contest that objective and claim the one on the far side. So I've made sure that my one Dread Knight over there is in range to get himself onto the field for turn 6, and make sure that he stays out of range of the wizard possibly sniping him off. So that's why I marched him in a funny spot.
At some point, I did throw a silver spike at him to try and wipe him out, just because I could get a line of sight on him and he's worth the points, but it just didn't work out.
So with the Corsairs, I musical reform them and move them 5 inches away. I made sure that they can musical reform and move straight back onto the objective for turn 6. So, and by musical reforming my Dread Legionnaires on the bottom as well, they're exactly 10 inches away from the fence. So I've got 2 units that can both on turn 6 on the bottom march into position to contest or claim that objective. So I'm hopefully putting a puzzle together that Shane isn't going to find a solution to, and I'll be able to claim the secondary. In the magic phase, I get card number 6 dice, 5 Veil tokens. It doesn't look like anything impactful happens in magic, and my shooting's pretty much out of range. Those fast elements are still trying to reposition here. I'll get a turn 6 volley off, but not this turn. So in combat, I break those slave orcs finally. They decide to make a run for it. I don't quite catch them either. The positioning leaves me not able to charge the Titan Mortar on my 6th turn either. So all in all, an unfortunate situation here for me. I wasn't able to get the points from the orcs, and I'm not going to be able to charge that Titan Mortar.
I think the orcs may have put another wound on that chariot,
It looks like they did.
They're just all-stars right now.
Makes up for the last set of them. The Hydra finishes off that Kadeem, takes 1 more wound, and he turns around. I've got to threaten these Immortals a little bit. I mean, I'm pretty sure Shane knows I'm not going to charge him, but I got to at least make him think about it.
So this just looks like the board at the beginning of the Infernal Dwarf turn or the end of the Dread Elf turn. Here we go. So, I have various problems to solve. I need to make sure I can stop those Corsairs from turning around, and I also need to block those spears from moving onto the fence if I'm going to stop him from getting the objective. I think I have a couple of options here, one of them being just to move that Battle Standard Bearer out in front of the Corsairs and try to burn them down. Another being just to move him in the way. But I decide that the best plan is to try and charge them. I'm just going to charge my character out of the unit. If he makes it, he can, we'll just wipe them off the board. If Will decides to flee, he'll probably flee too far away to rally and come back.
Yeah, with only having turn 6 left, I can't really flee, or else when I rally, I won't be able to contest that objective. Then the Immortals will just march on top of it and stop my Spearmen. So I have to hold and hope that he fails the charge.
Which I do not.
Nope, makes it in. It's those stubby legs.
That's all that static combat res from that rear charge. I'm still going to win this one.
The momentum keeps him going.
I think these are the slave orcs deciding it's just not worth it anymore. They put 2 wounds on a chariot. They tried to charge in and help some dwarves. They tried to hold that flank. They did.
Killed a handful of Corsairs too.
They did 115 points worth of stuff, so it's just time to go home.
They're tired.
So here are my Immortals. They are on the fence. They're in a position here that means that the Spearmen are not going to be able to move on and contest the objective. Now, they could be charged by that Hydra, they could be charged by the chariot, they could be charged by the spears, but none of those will capture the objective unless the Immortals break and run, and I'm pretty confident that not one of those elements or all of those elements will make that happen. So here's my last magic phase.
Last magic phase.
Last magic phase. I'm looking for big dice here. I really want to try and just throw everything I can at those spearmen. Just once again, throw another panic check. That's always worth trying out. I will throw some spell at them and kill a couple, so that was nice. Over here,
The Titan Mortar takes a long range shot. He's
right.
smokes one of those one of those Dark Riders with the shell. His buddy survives though.
This was worth a shot because I wasn't going to be able to use that to kill those skirmishers effectively with their hard targets. My best chance was to shoot these cavalry. If I wiped them both out with a shot, and I had to hit and wound and everything, but if I wipe them both out, then first of all, I get a whole unit, and second of all, it'll be a pile of panic checks, so I give it a go and get that one guy.
Yeah, and the Dark Riders failed their panic here. They run off. Based on the positioning, they don't run through anything, and because they weren't totally destroyed, all my other Ravencloaks don't need to test. So just a lone Dark Rider here. He's had enough. He didn't sign up for Mortar Fire.
Over here, my battle stand bear somehow miraculously manages to finish off these 3 Corsairs.
Corsairs are tough, man. It wasn't a guarantee.
No, they're rock solid. I think they're one of the best elements in your army.
Yeah, I love them. It wasn't surprising. You still had your breath weapon, able to finish them off here and kind of get rid of one of those 2 threatening pieces. So now it's just up to the spearmen.
So here we go, last turn.
Final turn of the game. I'm taking a look at my options, and there's that battle standard bear out in the open, 2 bolt throwers staring at him, and I can't get my spearmen onto that fence. I just can't get close enough because the immortals are body blocking me, and for King of the Hill you actually have to be in the terrain feature, which means I need to be at least contacting that fence. It's just not feasible. And I'm not going to send my Hydra into the Immortals alone. I'll just lose my points. So I opt for no charges. I move the Dread Knight there into the field so that he can claim that objective. And I just kind of position myself to throw some shots, hopefully kill that Titan Mortar, hopefully kill that BSB, and claim some points here at the end of the game.
I think you were considering whether or not you should charge the BSB with the Chariot, but it was just a safer option to fire all the bolt throwers repeater crossbows at him.
Yeah, it also opens up my magic arsenal as well. If I charge him with the Chariot, it's not a guarantee. Things can go wrong. I could end up losing the Chariot, and if by not charging, I can't possibly lose any points, so I decided to go for the safer choice.
He was dead as soon as he was in the wide open with all that threat around him. But winning the secondary objective is just worth so many more points than losing the battle standard bearer that it was just a trade that I had to make.
So I position these guys to have one more round of shooting at this Titan Mortar. It's got 6 wounds, so I've got my work cut out for me. Everyone else tries to get into range. Those scouts finally get to fire again on the last turn. That lone Dark Rider does not rally. He's decimated and he's on his way home. Here we are sizing up my shots, taking aim, make sure that little dwarf is in the sights.
Yeah, I decided at the end of that combat to face him towards the Chariot, just to make sure the Chariot had the least static combat res in case Will charge me. I figured it doesn't really matter which direction you take a 6-foot spear through, so if I turn my back to the bolt throwers, so be it.
Magic phase, I get a pretty strong one, so this is good. It's the last turn. I want to throw both my missiles at that BSB, and it'd be nice to crippling fatigue him, so we'll see what happens here. I throw a crippling fatigue with 4 dice. I get a huge roll.
This is a huge roll, and I'm pretty sure I just let it through. I'm pretty sure this guy is dead anyways, but once again, on a big roll of crippling fatigue, I just want to have my dice out to stop whatever comes next.
Yeah, so I throw the rest of my dice at a Fate's Judgment, and you fail the Dispel. It's pretty fortunate for me. I sneak a wound through his armor and his Aegis save.
So when he had 3 wounds left, taking those bolt throwers, I was thinking 2 solid shots. I've got a 5+ ward. He does D3 wounds. He gets 1 through, and I take 2 wounds. Going into the shooting phase with all these pointy sticks coming at me and only 2 wounds left, I'm ever more confident the end is near.
Yeah, re-rolling my failed wounds too now, so I don't have to worry about rolling that 1. I open fire and I wipe them out. Bolt throwers finish them off. In the top, I fire at that Titan Mortar, and I put a total of 5 wounds. It survives. Survives the game with 1 left. And here's what our table looks like at the bottom of turn 6. So it was a really close game.
So shockingly, I have something besides the Immortals left at the end of the game. I also have a Titan mortar. Normally it's just the Immortals left, but different than normal, my BSB is dead, so I guess that's the trade off. I was happy I managed to get or contest that objective. As soon as I lost my elements on the top corner there, I realized I wasn't going to contest Will's side at all, so I just wanted to do everything I could to make sure that was a tie.
Yeah, and the Immortals did a really good job providing a lot of threat. They also got to participate in the game, in the mid game. They fought the BSB, they applied a lot of pressure, and they caused a lot of panic checks. I passed a lot of panic checks, but they caused a lot.
Just throwing things like Silver Spike at the BSB repeatedly and blazing off small elements is just it's just such a strong threat. They're always just worth it.
Yeah, we tallied up the victory points here at the end. Difference was a 909 points in favor of the Dread Elves. So that was a 13-7. And since the secondary objective was a tie, we each had one of the features. We're looking at a 13-7 win for the Dread Elves.
There you go. It was a good game back and forth. I felt that Will's Dread Elves had a lot of strong elements. I couldn't get to grips with all of them at the same time, obviously. He had a lot of mobility. He could move around me and take pieces on me. And I just didn't have the ability to try and damage all those things or finish off the injured units. So I managed to preserve a lot of points on me.
Yeah, and I felt fortunate too being able to take the left flank so early with the double failed terror test. That kind of let me reposition myself. I don't think I capitalized on it well. The Raven cloaks there never really got into the game, so they kind of would have been busy over there anyways had you have not failed. And the chariot kind of hid behind that impassable terrain piece. I didn't really have a better option for it though. I don't think I used my whole army to the best of my ability, but it ended up being enough. So hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be back again soon with another report. Get some other armies in here too. If there's anything you guys like to see, let us know. We'll see. We got a demon army as well that we've been doing some reports with. So if anyone's interested in checking out the new demon legions, let us know.
Feel free to like and subscribe to catch all of our new videos coming out, and thanks for watching.